Hello everyone and welcome back to the Aftermath series. It's been a few weeks, but we have finally returned. And so, without wasting any more time at all, let us dive right into this week's episode of Critical Role. So of course we start with the aftermath of the previous episode with the party waking up in Villia's room after they have saved Rumblecusp from Vokodo's grasp. And the party has a whole convention to plan for. That's right, TravelerCon is right around the corner and they still have a lot to do. And while they're discussing what to do, the Traveler himself actually shows up to put in his 2 cents and listen in on the conversation. Now, the end goal for TravelerCon is to offload the followers of the Traveler onto someone else. Artagan wants nothing to do with this religion anymore. And so a few ideas are brought up, human sacrifice being one of them, altering their memory a little bit. Some heavy stuff, but they weren't actually going to kill anyone, although Artagan did find that idea rather intriguing. But ultimately they decided on a very serious solution. Just a whole lot of dicks. Dick statues, dick hunting, dick carvings, sacrificing the dicks. And you may be wondering, what does all of this dick nonsense lead to? What? Isn't it obvious? It clearly leads to the Moonweaver. That's right, after all of this dick shenanigans, the followers of the Traveler will be offloaded to the Moonweaver. It only makes sense. And now that they have a solid plan set in stone, it honestly really is just straightforward. Just if you see something, just put a dick on it, add a dick there, a dick here, just add them everywhere. As this whole conversation is happening, Villia is gathering up batches of people to take them back to their homes. Some in the Menagerie Coast, some in Eastern Tal'Dorei, others in Marquette, some in Zadash, all over the place. And among these batches of people are Kotho and their gang. But before Kotho departed, Ford wanted to talk to them about a business proposition. Ford ultimately hires Kotho to locate Sabian and to relay any information that they find. Kotho agreed to this job and asked Ford to give them at least a month. And so for the time being, the seed of more of Ford's backstory has been planted. It'll be interesting to see what Sabian's been up to after the betrayal, and if he's connected to Uk'otoa. But moving on with the episode, the party has several days before TravelerCon takes place, and so they each decide to undertake different tasks to liven up the place and prepare it for the arriving travelers. Caleb works closely with Jester to create programmed images of impressive displays, arches of the Traveler where you walk through, glitter shoots everywhere in this spectacular display. There's programmed images of the Traveler at the beach, beckoning people to come to him, and then sending them on their way into the forest. Bo decides to craft a dancing/fighting ring. Yasha decides to create the arts and crafts area, where families will be able to come together and carve dick statues with one another. A truly bonding experience. Now, one of these nights, Caduceus was unable to sleep. The vision that Vokodo gave them before he died has shaken Caduceus, and he's unable to focus. And so eventually he decides to commune with the Wild Mother to learn more about this unnatural, mysterious entity thing that they saw in the Astral Sea. Caduceus was hoping to get some answers, but the Wild Mother honestly has no idea what this thing is, which definitely makes it a lot more threatening, because this is some cosmic eldritch horror shit. Hopefully it just stays in the Astral Sea and everything will be fine, but we all know that's probably not going to be the case. As the days continue, more and more travelers arrive to the island, and then the party realizes, how are we going to feed all of these people? And so they come up with the brilliant idea of hunting the T-Rexes that roam this jungle. The party then sets out to locate such a beast, and eventually come upon a massive albino T-Rex. They attempted to sneak up on it, however, Veth attempted to climb a tree and failed, slipped and fell, screaming on her way down, alerting the T-Rex of their presence. Now, luckily, this fight was a 7-on-1, and the party had a surprise attack round on top of that, so things weren't too dire at surface level. However, if it weren't for Ray of Enfeeblement by Caduceus, the T-Rex would have effectively one-shot Beauregard, as it did a critical strike that would have done over 120 damage, but because of Ray of Enfeeblement, it only did like 30. But still, that would have been absolutely insane if Caduceus didn't use Ray of Enfeeblement and we just lost Beauregard in one attack. But as the fight progressed, it was clear that this T-Rex did not stand a chance at all. Jester put down a barrier of blades that just kept carving into it. Caleb turned into a T-Rex and started chomping on him, and everyone was just throwing everything they had at this poor elderly T-Rex. Eventually, Ford does get the killing blow, and then Jester also turns into a T-Rex, and then Caleb and Jester, in their T-Rex forms, help carry this mighty beast back to camp. And now on the 4th day of setup, even more people arrive. One of them being a familiar gnoll that Jester met in Asarius. Bo also met an interesting fellow as she was attempting to set up a bar, a halfling by the name of Kent Plucker. Now, for those of you who watched Campaign 1, Kent Plucker was a part of a troop that Scanlan was in, under Dr. Dranzel. So just another cute little subtle callback to Campaign 1. During this 4th day, the party gathered for a brief moment and decided to talk about the vision that they saw. They hadn't really had a chance to fully discuss what happened, and ultimately none of them really know what it is either. But Yasha did make the Molly connection. There's this whole Eyes of 9 imagery, and as we know, Molly did have 9 eye tattoos on his body. And then Ford brought up going back to go get Molly, and while that does seem kind of ridiculous, it also kind of makes sense. Molly has risen from the dead before. What's to say it wouldn't happen again? But we'll worry about all of that for after TravelerCon. And as the 5th day arrived, the eve of TravelerCon, there are now over 100 followers of the Traveler on this island. Musicians, people bringing their own cloaks. It's just a very lively festival. And it is pretty much exactly what I imagined. It's just a bunch of people playing pranks, laughing, drinking, sharing stories, just having a jolly good time. And as all of this is going on, the Traveler and Jester have a one-on-one conversation, where they basically tell each other that they've supported and guided each other over the years, and each of them has grown because of the other. In this conversation, we really get to see how much Jester cares about the Traveler. But the Traveler keeps saying that all good things come to an end. Nothing is eternal. Is he potentially foreshadowing a falling out? Is he foreshadowing the fact that Artagan might just leave Jester behind? I don't think that's the case, but it does feel like the Traveler is preparing Jester for something to happen. Whether it's bad or good remains to be seen. Overall, this was just a very wholesome moment between the Traveler and Jester. Definitely much needed on Jester's part, since she's been so confused about the Traveler recently. Is he evil? Is he good? She wasn't quite sure. But then this conversation took place, and I feel like all of those worries just washed away for her. And as the moon rises over this island, the festivities going on through the night, Veth notices that Vilya is off on her own. Veth approaches Vilya to strike up a conversation, and the two of them have a very nice heart-to-heart where they talk about their place in the world. What is their role? Should they be out exploring, adventuring, experiencing the world, or should they go back home and be with their family? They're both anxious to return home. They don't know how their family is going to react with them finally returning. Both of them do agree that it's best to not delay the inevitable. Putting it off is really only going to make things worse for you. Veth ultimately helps convince Vilya to return back to her home, to be with her family. But before Vilya leaves, she grows 3 flowers, 1 blue, 1 pink, and 1 white. She wants to give the pink one to Caduceus to remind him that what he's doing, his role with the Wild Mother and nature, is important, and he's very much vital to the cycle of nature. The blue flower is for Ford, who seems lost, but she wants to remind him that nature and the Wild Mother will always be there to protect him. And then lastly, the white flower goes to Yasha, mainly because Yasha really enjoys collecting flowers, and Vilya thought she could add this one to her collection. And with the flowers passing over to Veth, Vilya approaches the tree and opens the portal back to her home. And through the portal we see a familiar figure. We see the mantle with the leaves changing colors, the large antlers, and with those two descriptions alone, we know that this is Keyleth. Keyleth turns around as Vilya steps forward and is just overwhelmed with emotion, clasping her chest, and both of them rushing towards each other as the tree closes behind Vilya. Such a brief moment, but so powerful and so beautiful. Matthew Mercer, you always amaze me with your storytelling. But we did it! All the Keyleth manifesting finally worked. The Keyleth prayer circles, the spamming of Keyleth on various social media platforms, it all worked. It finally paid off. We got our Keyleth cameo. And that is where the episode ends. So, with all of that being said, we are going to wrap up. Let me know all of your thoughts, feelings, and emotions during that episode. For me, overall, this was one of the best episodes of recent times, at least since the break happened. It had everything. It had a T-Rex fight. It had dicks. It had Keyleth. What more could you want? But anyways, I hope you all have an absolutely wonderful rest of your weekend, and I will see you all next week.